I was just driving my in-laws to the hospital just for some checkups, some doctor's visits and stuff, and you find out that Brian Wilson, the mastermind, as the title states, behind the Beach Boys, has passed away. He was 82 years old. He was suffering from same age as Sly Stone yesterday. Some types of dementia in the last few years. Of course, Brian Wilson has always had some issues because of dipping into the psychedelia, I guess you could say. But I was just doing a thing on the Beach Boys a few weeks ago, and I'm still kind of in shock about this, but the fact that the Beach Boys, before Beatlemania, the Beatles were going, but in '63, before Beatlemania hit in '64 in North America, '63 they released 3 albums. Pet Sounds, the year before Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band in '66, which heavily influenced the Beatles. Do I think the Beach Boys were better than the Beatles? No, I don't. But this is certainly a day for Brian Wilson, a mastermind of a musician. If you listen to Pet Sounds, if you listen to certain specific songs from their repertoire, there's the fun songs like Surfing U.S.A., but listen to Good Vibrations. You listen to that song and your life changes. There's so many other songs. I remember my first Beach Boys album was when I was, I think, 15 years old. They were making a comeback at that point in the mid-'70s. And the harmonies, you can't talk harmonies for a band. Hey, Alex, thanks for being there, buddy. Victoria said, well, crap. Captain says, Brian Wilson, yeah. Brian Wilson was genius. In spite of his demons, and well said, Safe and Sound, that is the thing. When you have a mind like that, it doesn't always equate or materialize or have a downward spiral of what a Brian Wilson does, like Sid Barrett's The Ultimate Story of when it comes to that. But Brian Wilson, I would say he's one of the stories when it comes to that. When I was listening to Pet Sounds for like a gazillionth time, again, '66, the year before Sgt. Pepper's, I was listening to it a few weeks ago. I remember going, wow, this is what, and the Beach Boys were never my A-list band, but the genius of Brian Wilson, of putting that much, what if we do more? What if it's not finished? And to everyone around you, it sounds like it's finished. Captain Robert April says they're dropping like flies now. Opportunistic time, right? Unfortunately, when you get in your, I just drove my father-in-law for his checkup, and he's 83. Friends on Facebook sometimes, and you'll look at them and you'll go, wow, they're really old. And they're the same age as you. And realistically, you probably look just like them. It's that time. But Brian Wilson is a big one. Brian Wilson has influenced so many musicians. Every time I talk to people in a vocal type band, like Randy Meisner, who we just lost a little while ago, or Bernie Leadon from the Eagles, talking to the 3 main vocalists from Little River Band, Glenn Shorrock, B. Birtles, and Graham, when you talk to them, they all mentioned the Beach Boys, of going, that was the height, that was the area, that was the place you wanted to go to when it comes to that. I'm going to read some of your comments. All the hidden ones are coming out dead. Never heard of Sly Stone for a long time. Well, JD, it's cool, Whenever I used to, remember when we were like 15, 16 years old, we run into someone who didn't know a certain band that you loved. And, when you're 15 or even 12, you do stupid things like, oh, how could you not know who that is? Oh, what's wrong with you? And, you get older and you start realizing, well, there's no right or wrong time to discover music. It's all good. I was watching a thing yesterday on the Soft White Underbelly. It's a great channel, by the way. I'd highly recommend it, on Facebook and YouTube, where the lady was saying that her favorite bands were, the Spice Girls and Britney Spears. And when I was 15, they weren't around then, I would have gone, what's wrong with that person? Nah, music, people are right. You like what you like. Renoir, nice to have you on here. Rest in peace, Brian. Well, thank you for the music. And that's the thing. Can a mind like that stay sane? No, but when a mind's revving, and you don't know if that's the version of the mind that you're talking about, when there's so many ideas in your head that it's hard to stay in your body. I've read a few things off and on about Brian Wilson. He drove one of the main voices, Mike Love, crazy a lot, because it was that situation where he would go, hey, the song's finished, and that's a Brian Wilson, not what he had in his head, and it drove him crazy sometimes. They were like America's Beatles. He was the Lennon. Yeah, Brian, well said. This one hits hard. MC, thank you. Rest in peace. Pet Sounds Alone. I know, right? Mod 134. Just anybody who would release an album like Pet Sounds. And if you haven't listened to it, it's okay. It's like, again, let's not be like that. But I would say at least give yourself a listen to it. And there's a whole bunch of material. Like I was saying when I started, when I was doing a little research on a piece I wanted to do with the Beach Boys a few weeks ago, when I found out, I went, oh yeah, they released 3 albums in 63, a year before. There's my in-laws. They just came up and they're just letting me know how their appointment is going. They're more than, my father-in-law's 83, my mother-in-law's 80, and they're more than capable. He's more capable of driving, but I suggested it to them. Wouldn't it be easier if I just drove you right at the door? You don't have to worry about parking. Just let me, it's a half an hour drive. I don't care. And they're really nice people. This is another day. The music died. Yes. Thank you. Kevin says, I hope Brian is jamming in heaven with his brothers, Carl and Dennis. Dennis hit me hard. I remember that was an accident, but that was crazy. And his relationship with Christine McVie, we did a thing on that a few years ago. But whenever you get anything about a band that's that powerful, that's that crucial in the history of music, you're going to get stories. And I highly recommend, there's so many books on the Beach Boys where you go, whoa, wow, these guys lived it, and when in Rome thing, right? Such a talent. Andy Partridge of XTC referred him many times in his shows at XTC's music. And Andy Partridge, there's a guy who, thanks for mentioning, Andy's one of my favorites. I love XTC. I saw them in concert. And when Andy got stage fright and couldn't perform, you go, what? Him, of all people? You never know. There's all kinds of stuff that comes with stardom that sometimes I was an old lumberjack when I was growing up. I'd go, what's wrong with those guys? They're so lucky to have all that fame. Yeah, come on, they're human. They have their devices like we do, right? It just comes out differently. Thornblade, rest in peace, Brian Wilson, pure musical genius. You know what? Before I started, a friend of mine called me and he said, you're going to get a lot of this musical genius stuff. I said, yeah, and as we should. Because what else would you say about Brian Wilson? It's the biggest thing. Sail On Sailor, yeah. And interesting you should say that, because that was the Beach Boys hit that didn't sound, it kind of sounded like the Beach Boys, but it didn't. I was just talking to Jock Bartley of Firefall, the only remaining member of Firefall, speaking of vocal bands. They were a great vocal band. And they just redid Sail On Sailor. R.A. says he was a tortured soul. Very, very, very true. Fame is an illusion. Thornblade, yeah, that's very true. Yeah, that one, you know what? I know that's been said many times, but that one kind of stopped me a little bit in my tracks. But it is. You think, I'm doing a thing right now. I'm always working on several videos. I'm on for our sister channel, which is a thematic channel. And I'll get back to this in a second. But where the whole video is about 20 artists who got everything they wanted, and then they realized they still weren't happy. Or got everything they wanted, and then they fell in some potholes. Because that's what happens with that kind of stuff, right? And the foibles, just things, distractions, so many ways you could go wrong. But realistically, if you look at Brian Wilson, aren't you a little surprised? Don't get me wrong, I'm sorry he's dead. He was one of the greatest artists of all time. But I'm surprised he lived till he was 82. R.A. says, really is a good movie. I didn't see the beginning of what you said. John says, Beach Boys love their harmonies. That's the biggest thing. The harmonies, of the simplicity yet complexity of some of their music. No one could do it like that. They were in their own lane. I mean, seriously, they really were. God only knows must be one of the Must be the conversation for the greatest songs ever. Totally agree. Yeah. Uh, Thorne says Pet Sounds. You got this is a day to listen to Pet Sounds. If you want to digest to death, that's fine. As a lot of people said, this one hit hard, but Pet Sounds, yeah. A lot of great comments today. Thank you so much for all the folks who came on. I don't remember the last time I did this in my car, but like I said, I was driving my in-laws to my father-in-law to his doctor's appointment. He's okay, but he's 83, and I suggested to him that why don't I just drive you, and so you don't have to get out of the car and find parking. I'll drive you to the door. Shrek West says, been dreading this day for a long time. He's no longer a leaf on a windy day or a rock in a landslide. Ooh. Sly Stone yesterday, Brian today. Yeah, back and forth. And Sly was a hard one for me. Hot Fun in the Summertime to me is like a Good Vibrations in the way that Everyday People, Hot Fun in the Summertime, Everyday People to me are two of the greatest songs of all time. Good son-in-law you are. Thanks, Paul. Mike Glasgow says, don't worry, baby. It will be all right. Well said. I like the fact that a lot of you guys are quoting Beach Boys songs. I know a lot of people didn't have Beach Boys records. I have to admit that. A lot of my friends didn't, and we were not a Beach Boys crowd. Like I said before many times on this channel, I was 15 and 75. The Beach Boys were making a comeback. I bought a few albums, went back and bought older albums. Didn't want to, felt like I had to because I was getting into radio, I knew, and it was my duty to get to know them. Beach music wasn't my thing, but then you go deeper and you go, oh, the Beach Boys are a lot more than beach music. Mike says Sly and Brian. Oh, a lot of comments coming in here. Brian's music is eternal. His music, this is from Paul, helped me in such a difficult time. I think that's the case for a lot of people. You know, when you have a sense of there's a frailty in some of their music. There's a sense, obviously a sense of fun, devil may care, the beach mentality, but a lot of different stages. I remember when Kokomo came out, of course that's a different version of the Beach Boys. I remember John Phillips co-wrote that song from the Mamas and Papas. I remember disliking that song with such a passion, and now it's on the radio now and then. I'll go player of bass, writer of songs says, first saw him in the 70s promoting the Endless Summer. Oh yeah, Endless Summer. Yeah, that was a different stage, yet the same in some ways. I mean, the constant in the Beach Boys was always the good time sort of music of life. Don't take life so difficult. Don't look backwards. Don't look ahead. Just be in the moment. Enjoy your time. Enjoy the sand between your toes. And I know I'm dumbing it down a little bit, but Wilson. Oh yeah, rest in peace, Wilson Phillips. Talent, pure talent. Oh yeah. Marty Siegel says Surf's Up was a great album, very overlooked. There's a lot I think of. I think when Brian was involved. Hold on, I got a long comment here. There are so much, this is from Douglas, there's so many musicians, Elton John, Lindsey Buckingham, whose music was heavily influenced by Brian Wilson. Just listen to Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me. And Chameleon. Oh, I love Chameleon. Blue Moves, great. Blue Moves, I know it was one of those Elton John albums. I don't want to stray off the path here, but I love Blue Moves so much. Crocker, I don't know how to say that. Brian blended surf music and Chuck Berry and the Four Freshmen, and it just worked. Starman says, I cannot believe this. John Pepin, thought on Beach Boys, Love You. Smile Sessions, yeah. Greatest unfinished album of all time. Yeah, there's lots of documented material on that. Jonathan Naughton, thank you, Brian, for all your wonderful music. Starman, rest in peace, Brian. Joseph Vibes, been dreading this day for so long. Oh yeah, I already read that. Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate that comment. Yeah, Jonathan says, God only knows what we'd be without him. Brian Wilson passed away at 82 years old, surrounded by some family and friends. They, of course, did the token, respect our privacy, but it's official. I was just walking from like the shopping mall that I'm at here, and it came up on TMZ, and I went, oh boy, I'm going to the car. I was about to go to the furniture place. Kimberly says, thanks for all your info. Thank you. Thanks, Kimberly, for coming on. Jimmy Hawk, all my favorites. Let me go back. All my favorites will be dropping like flies in the beginning. Well, I know I always get flack for saying this, but in 20 years, there won't be a Beatle. We know that. Sad news to hear about Brian. Thomas says, rest in peace. Now all the Wilson brothers are together again. Michael B. Lyon, even his Christmas songs were golden. Little Saint Nick, oh yeah. Used to play that at the QMFM in Vancouver for years when we turned all Christmas music. Sharab says, his music will never be forgotten. That's true in the long run, right? Joseph says, we still have Mike Love, guys. Mike Love's such a love it or hate it type of guy. A lot of people have problems with Mike, but I've never interviewed him. I heard he's an interesting interview, but Starman says, Sly Stone and now Brian this week. What the has been hell. It's going to get worse, right? That's just a sad state of affairs, because a lot of them, we did a thing, and I didn't want to sound morbid, and I still might do it. If people keep asking me to do it. We did like the 35 musicians who are over 75, I think it was. Some of them are still going, some of them aren't. And it was educational, I guess I could say, because I thought, wow, I didn't realize there were that many people out there. Okay, Douglas wrote, George Martin started that there would never have been a Sgt. Pepper's if there had not been a Pet. Oh, of course. And then, Pet Sounds was the year before. And Sgt. Pepper's, in 67, a lot of good things happened. The Doors debut, Surrealistic Pillow by The Airplane, Jefferson Airplane. Sgt. Pepper's was a lot of great music that year. But before that, before the Summer of Love in 66, there was Pet Sounds. That changed everything. And they do get overshadowed by the Beatles a lot. And I think rightly so. Whatever you get, no matter what level you're at, there's always someone who's usually better. There's always someone who better is usually someone who touches people a little bit more, and I think the Beatles certainly did that. Sad day, but let's give Brian Wilson his due. Thanks, Alex. Thank you. I gotta go because I've got to pick up my in-laws from their slime. K-Man01 says Sly and Brian, and it's only Wednesday. Well, death doesn't stop on the weekends either. We'll see. I think I'll be doing a lot more of these. I usually try to make these about 20 minutes. It's the supposed good time for YouTube. They like 20-minute videos, and a lot of people are watching YouTube videos on their TVs now. So I try to make them at least 20 minutes. We're at 19:13, and I have to go pick up my in-laws from their doctor's visit. Paul says the Beatles and the Beach Boys made each other better. Paul, you just said the biggest thing today. That I couldn't have put that better. Thank you, Paul. And that's it. And that's what made the Beatles good. John and Paul working against each other. Rock in peace, George K says. George's K. Okay. Okay, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up. And Brian Wilson, 82 years old, same age, a day apart from Sly Stone, same age. Very different lives and some similarities in the extracurricular activities, let's just say. And it is true, if you're susceptible to mental illness, you don't want to dip in the sauce too much because it can make it worse. Sid Barrett probably knew that more than most people. Leave your comments if you've ever met him, if you've seen him in concert, your favorite albums, your favorite songs. This is a time to write it down, just to comment on the videos. And I much appreciated. Guys, sorry I had to do this in a car, but like I said, I was doing some doctor's visits for my father-in-law, who's doing really well. So take care of yourself. I always have problems. William says, I like Surf's Up. almost as much as pet sounds. See, there you go. No one's wrong. That's your favorite thing. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. I love you guys. And remember, always subscribe to the channel and like our videos, share them on social media, and, you know, all that fun stuff. Take care of yourself. John Bowden, Rocky Street.